Up. It's Wednesday. I haven't done a live stream for a little bit. I've been on vacation. I had work to do. I had other stuff to do, and I just haven't done a live stream for a little bit. And now I'm like watching my own live stream. Like, this is not cool. Like, there we go. All right. Kill that double audio thing going on we had there. I have a Quad Cortex. It showed up on my doorstep. I bought it from a friend at a reasonable price. I had talked myself into like, hey, I finally need to go check this thing out. I originally had one of these on pre-order, and if you're at all familiar with the Quad Cortex, you know it didn't release, 8, 9 months, a year. I don't even know how long it was late past when they thought they were going to release it. So I ended up just canceling my pre-order and went about my life. And I've heard enough good things about the device that I said, hey, I'm going to get one and check it out, and I want to see if it's usable for me in my situation. The point of this video is to take some questions. I'm going to play with the device a little bit while we're here, but I want to talk about, like, this is a 1.10 product. That's the version of the firmware. This, like, a 1.0 product is super new. Like, I don't care if you know anything about product development or whatever, and software development. A 1.0 product is so new. It's very, very young in its infancy. And there are tweets that are going out today about, hey, we're going to do releases every 4 to 6 weeks, and new features are coming, and we're going to make this better. And that's the story of the Quad Cortex thus far. Is it was launched with a bunch of promise and promises being made around what this device will be. And so I want to talk about kind of where it's at today, like in all reality. Is it a good modeler? Yes. Does it do anything that somebody else doesn't do, and does it do anything the best? That's kind of where we're at right now. So if you have questions, please tune in. Oh, what's up? My man Chad, who has a Quad Cortex, he says, hey, bro. Hey, Chad, thanks for tuning in. So, man, I'm stoked that everybody is here, all 8 of you at this point. If you have comments, questions, please leave them. I will take them. We will debate about what's going on, and I'm also going to play. So, like, we all know, like, this is where I need to drop my new, like, FBI warning. Like, if you are easily triggered by someone who is not an elite level guitar player, then go ahead and just click your close button now. Like, you're going to be triggered. I am not amazing at guitar, but I do know tone, and I do know technology. This is something that I do for a living. So, I've got a couple camera views set up. Camera number 2 pointing right at the Quad Cortex. And as you can see, I have built myself an Omega Obsidian rig. So that's kind of the first thing. While, in order to keep your interest this early in, let me just go ahead and give you a couple sound samples that are coming off of this device. This, I have captured both the clean channel and the dirty channel off of my Omega Obsidian using just the raw head output. I'm not really going to go into the what's a process to capture stuff today. My man Dalton is here, and Dalton is the one who kindly sold me the Quad Cortex to check out. So I appreciate him showing up he can weigh in on his thoughts and his time with the device as well. All right. Boom. Got the lay of the land. I am in either standard or drop D. I'm not going to, on this pretty badass telly here. And I'm going to give you some run through on some tones. Again, we're not here to really talk about how I play, but we're going to go take a look at exactly how the QC is. And like, we got we have like the spectrum, because this device, when I'm finished with it later today, is going to go to Greg. Which, spoiler alert, I'll save the spoiler alert for later. But Greg, this is where the device is going when I'm done. And Dalton says this telly is nasty. Yes, this telly is extremely nasty. So, all right, I'm going to kill my room mic, and I'm just going to get some sounds cutting out to the video. I've got several different scenes set up in this specific preset, and this is a preset that's in the works. So yeah, keep the questions and comments coming. I am here for all of this. All right. So as you might guess, this is sort of my ambient clean tone with the capture off of the Obsidian. Terrence is here. What's up, bro? Glad you are here as well. This is kind of my clean patch, and so the kind of the secret sauce here is in the shimmer reverb. Now, I realize you can't read this very well on the screen. The iPhone itself doesn't capture it too well based on the glare of the screen. And the little light on it doesn't necessarily make it any better. But this is my clean ambient patch, and I would say that the shimmer reverb is on par with something like the Source Audio stuff. Like, it's good. It's not Strymon level. And I'm like, I love my reverb. Man, this is the all-star crew today. Rex is here. Yo, thanks for tuning in, man. I'm all about this. So this is kind of my clean ambient patch. Ooh, good idea. Let's see if I can turn the brightness down and see if that helps. See, that is a setting that we have in here on the device options. Hold on. Device options, screen brightness. That, I mean, it's pretty dim. That might help you read this a little better. Man, look at all the pro tips that we got coming in here today. So cool. Actually, that might be better for you to read. Solid pro tip coming in from Brandon. Hell yes. And Rex saying yes as well. So there we go. You can now read the screen a little better. So what I was saying about the effects is, especially the reverbs that I have played with so far and like the chorus, like the effects are okay. I am not at all blown away by this. As far as a workflow device for me, this would not replace, I would not feel okay to replace my Strymon Big Sky and my Strymon Timeline with this device. So from like a value perspective, let's like, I think these retail for $18.99 new, plus tax, plus shipping, all of the yada yada yada. I would still feel like if I were going to use this device full time that I would want a Strymon reverb. That's just I'm big. Reverb's very important to me. So again, I'll stop yammering here. So Greg's question, how are the octaves and the drop tune shifting? This is not something that I've actually played with. We could try to figure this out live. I mean, I've got time to sit here and do some of that stuff. But I kind of want to walk through these settings first, and then we'll go and like, I've got some room to add some patches here. So let's kind of walk through what I've done in this rig so far. I think it kind of makes the most sense. And again, right now I told you this is sort of my ambient setting. So first up, we've got a compressor block, a drive block, and then I have two different captures for different drive pedals, so to speak, that I am using in this rig. And so the first one is one I got from Joe Bolliger earlier today, which is the Fission Clean Boost. So if I were on my little clean tone, in order to enable that, with the compressor and everything, that's actually clipping some stuff, so that's just more of how I have this patch set up. And again, tweaks I need to make as I dial in this preset. So go ahead, bypass that. The second capture here is a fuzz from, this is the same Bolliger Fission Drive. There has a fuzz mode on that pedal, and I have those set in. And then I have a chorus pedal, which I can use. The chorus is fine. To me, this is absolutely nothing special. But it's a chorus. Like, hey, it's got a chorus built in. Cool. It's got effects. And then I have two captures. One being my Omega Obsidian clean channel, which is a capture off of my Omega Obsidian. And then the other one is the lead channel. Now, I don't know if this is exactly the correct way to route this. Adaptive gate is here. You know, that's actually in my second thing. I'm not using the adaptive. I'm using the simple gate. Again, I've literally had this device for 48 hours. I spent more time with it today than I had, you know, kind of really anywhere else. So I've got those two there. And then on my second line, I've got the cabinet, which this is a kind of an interesting thing. Let's talk about the cabinet itself. So when you go into the cabinet model, you actually pick a cabinet model, and it works a lot like the plugin does, because if you want to use an IR, you still have to load a cabinet, and then you go and select like what IR you want to use. Now I have, from a clean perspective, I'm using the Vox AC30 cab from ML Sound Lab. This is just a setup. I've used this on my Rev and a bunch of different stuff going on there. So, and from a volume perspective, I feel like the output volume on this is quite low, and I believe that's intentional. But to get it up for levels for this video and things like that, I have actually added in some level, as you can see here on the IRs. I've upped the levels in the amp itself. And that's again where once you start to stack some of this stuff on top of each other, this is where I got to the where that sound was clipping when I dropped a clean boost onto the clean channel, which is what was pretty much already volume leveled there. But I do have different IRs set up per preset, so that's I don't definitely need two different cab blocks, but because I can load a different IR as part of the scene. I've got an EQ block here that I'm not really using, but I have this in place in case I do want to use that. And then I've got a delay. I'm using a room reverb, and then I have my shimmer reverb that stacks on top of that. So that's kind of like what's going on in this scene. And so again, in this patch, I've got scene A set up as just a regular clean tone. B is the ambient, C is a normal drive, and D is like a lead tone. So let me just bounce through those a little quickly. Again, comments, questions as I go. And again, I'm just kind of giving you a walkthrough of the device. There are a million other videos out there on what the Quad Cortex is and does. I'm really here to answer a lot of questions. And again, I'm giving you my opinions as we go on what I think of it. And so far, the interface itself is pretty intuitive. There are some things that I don't necessarily like the way it works, but at least I understand how it's doing it, which was pretty easy to figure out within a very short amount of time. So, all right, we've got the clean tone. I'm going to go on to clear the room mic, and I'm just going to go bounce through these tones a little bit. All right, so those are the first 4 scenes there. Now, the other scenes that I have set up are things like a wet scene, a fuzz scene. So a wet meaning it's got chorus on it, a fuzz scene, and then the interesting thing about a piece of gear like this is obviously it's a digital representation of certain sounds. And so I captured the Omega Obsidian. Does the to me there I want to stop the conversation of does this sound like the real amp? And I realize capture technology or profiling technology, the whole goal of that is, can I make it sound like something else? Does this sound like the Omega Obsidian? Kinda. Like, it gives you a sense. Like, I was like playing it, it sounded familiar to an amp that I play all the time. And but it's not the real question. The real question is, does it sound good? And I think this does sound quite good. Rex is asking, are you connected to an amp? No, I am not. This is the direct XLR out off of... Sorry. This is actually the USB audio out of the Quad Cortex into an aggregate device. You are hearing this basically as if it were off headphones. So I'm not running this through any of my other rig. This is a complete... This is exactly... Like, if you were to plug headphones into this thing, this is exactly what you would hear. So again, the question of does it sound like an Omega Obsidian, to me, I almost don't care about that point. It matters if you have a capture or a profiling feature that says, hey, I can steal the soul of that amp, I can make it sound exactly like it does, da 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 da. But we're not talking about... your ear does not hear anything like an SM57. So the debate of does this sound like the amp in the room or whatever else. It sounds very similar to if I were to take my Omega Obsidian, which it is, through the load box over there, turn it on, plug it in, and if I were to go back and forth and load up the exact same IRs, would it sound very similar in a live stream like this, in a recording? Yes, it would. I spent some time and plugged this into a 2x12 cab that I have sitting right down here with a power amp that sits in my rack. Does it feel like my Omega Obsidian? No, it doesn't. And as I was having a conversation with somebody, like, nothing replaces the feel of an outdated, tube-powered amplifier. The digital thing is just different. Is it bad? No. It's just different. Do I feel like this feels good? Yes, I think this does feel good. Does it feel the same? No. The response is just different. I think, and that's kind of the debate here around, or that's what I want to stop debating, I should say, is it doesn't feel like it's not the same thing. The Fractal isn't the same thing. The Kemper isn't the same thing. Your pod from 1999 doesn't sound the same. I don't care. Does it feel the same? Does it sound good? That's all that really matters. And the answer to that is yes. Yes, this does indeed sound good. So, point where I started on this was things like, in my opinion, the Omega Obsidian, 1, doesn't need a boost, and 2, actually doesn't take them very well. Like, you are overloading the front end of this in an amp that really doesn't need it and doesn't like it. However, in a digital world where like all of the impedances are different and things that are way above my pay grade and scientific things, we can stick a boost in front of this amp and make it do something that I might not be able to make it sound like with the real thing. And that's, again, where these are all tools. Again, can I stick a boost in front of the Obsidian and make it sound good? So let me just stop talking for a second and show you an example of what I mean. Let's bounce over here to the Quad Cortex. And we're going to go here back to the standard Scene C here for me. And it does have a touchscreen. is my normal drive. This is just the normal drive sound, which is captured. Also, this does have a built-in tuner. I'm at least going to go into drop D for the heavier folks here. I can grab a guitar that's in drop C or whatnot, but I just figured since we're talking about a high gain amp and I'm not on the clean channels, let's at least get into drop D. Now, again, we can control how this sounds by changing the IRs. I can do different things with the cab levels here. I feel like no matter what I keep doing, these cab levels keep changing. It may be because I'm changing the preset or something of that nature. But I originally had these cabs leveled up. And so as you could see here, if I went into scene D, go back into scene C here, I'm going to level these cabs up from a volume perspective. And again, the only reason I'm doing this is for this stream to just kind of get the volume, the levels correct, and this is how you're going to dial in different patches. So, back to the original thing. Does that sound good? I think it does. Does it sound exactly like my Omega Obsidian? It doesn't have the same low end response. Does it sound good? Yes, it does. Now, I can drop into scene F here, which drops in that clean boost, and we're going to go into a whole new area and a tightness level of what like a boosted amp would do. And this is, like, again, not something I would be able to easily replicate here in the room. Now, to me, that sounds even better. Like, that's killer, like, metal tone on a, vintage style telly thing, low output pickup. This is the kind of stuff that I like to jam. So again, if I grabbed a different guitar with higher output pickups, we're going to get a different response out of this whole thing. But everything is, like, it feels it's slightly underwhelming to me. Like, this doesn't do anything that I don't already have in a Neural DSP plugin. So if you're going to spend, for the sake of argument, let's just say that this device is $2,000. You can get these sounds right now through using Neural DSP plugins through one of the different amp sims. Now again, can you sync your own amp, and can you get an Omega Obsidian or capture my Rev or capture the Granifier? Again, there is a Granifier sim by Neural DSP. Can you capture that with a plugin? No, that doesn't exist. If what you want to do is take live copies of your own amps and then take this device and go gig, that is a perfect use case for this. I don't gig. I love the idea that I need a fly rig or something. But honestly, I was on vacation a few weeks ago. I took my laptop and I played a guitar through Positive Grid, an $80 program on my iPad, and honestly, it was fine. I had a good time kicking it around. But if you're someone who plays live and you are a professional and this is what you want, do you want to take this to a session with you and plug it in there as opposed to taking around an amp or whatnot? But this, for me, with the effects being, out of their version 1.0 effects, are they going to get better? Absolutely. I will also tell you I have spent zero time with the amp modeling aspects of this. I haven't gone and checked out the PV5150 model or a Mesa Lone Star that may be in here. I'm sure that they are good, and we can certainly check out some of those as we go. If you've got questions, there's several people hanging around on this chat. Ask some questions. Let's dig into this. I'm going to save this rig here because I've made some changes to it and whatnot. Let's see if we can keep where we're at going. And kind of the last preset that I want to walk through is I've got the Bolliger Fuzz here set up in this, and then we can go dig into other presets. We can talk about Tone Cloud or whatever we would, the Cortex Cloud. I'm certainly here for all of this, and I'm here for your questions. So let's dig into this fuzz tone. Now, honestly, that's a good fuzz tone out of a modeler. I mean, I feel like every modeler, including the Axe-Fx, has struggled with fuzz tones. Is the Big Muffin, the Fractal, better than it used to be? For sure. But we've got a couple questions here. Let's go through these. Chad says the amp models are 80% as good as the plugins. Chad has spent some time with them, and I trust this. I think the plugins are very good. I think some of them need a little bit of updates, and I think the newer the plugin, the better they are. I mean, I was I'm in love with the new archetype Tim Henson, but I love Matchless style amps, which is, I'm 99% sure what that amp is modeled after. And I think the Omega amp is great. I think the Nolly stuff is good. I think their Sims are awesome. Brandon says, very Siamese Dreams pumpkin era. And yeah, I mean, that's exactly kind of what I think this tone nails pretty well. And this is off a neural capture that is available right now from Bolliger Guitars. Nailed it. And then last one was Dalton's asking, what power amp did I play into a cab? And so if right here, see if I can do this without making too much of a hassle and move it back. But in my rack is a Matrix 600 or 800 power amp that is solid state, kind of meant for the modeler world. That's the power amp, and I took that into my Zilla 2x12, which sits next to my thing. And now it does sit on wheels and on a hardwood floor, and speakers aren't that broken in. It's the least favorite cab of the. I own 3 cabs, okay, and their other 2 are Omegas. I don't want to be like super biased here, but. Like that's I used that's the cab through a power amp that I used, and after dialing in some other stuff, like that's the whole thing. Like I think it sounds okay through a cab, but obviously you put the real amp into the real cab, and it wasn't close for me to my ears what I thought. Drew is asking, how does the high gain in the room stuff, does it feel like a real amp through a cab? No, and it's not going to. Like this, like Drew, I don't mean to pick on you. Like, please don't. Like, this isn't a personal attack. But this is the debate that I really just want to stop. Does a modeler sound like an amp in a room through a cab? No, it doesn't, because it's modeling a microphone, picking up that signal close mic'd. Your ear does not hear things like an SM57. It's a different vibe, and it doesn't sound like the amp in the room. Now, like on my dirty channel here, there's a reason that I leave a reverb block on this. I want it to have a little more air in the tone, so therefore, like on this preset, I do, for my high gain tone, I do leave a little bit of reverb. Drew says, "Hey, thanks. He understands." Cool, man. I really don't mean that as like a personal attack. Like, it's just one of these debates of like it's the question that comes up in every Facebook group and every guitar forum is, "Hey, man, does it sound like the amp in a room? And does it sound better than the Kemper?" The amp modeling is better than the Kemper, in my opinion. From the stuff that I've worked with, like when I modeled, I had a Kemper before. I ran the Omega through it. I've used the official Omega profiles through it. This came to me with some other very good amp modeling sims on it, and I thought the captures were very good. I think the amp capture tool in this is the thing it does best, and I think it does it better than the Kemper. So again, if that's your goal, if you want to capture your amps, it does it better than other people. I think your mileage may vary on the style of amp you are trying to capture. Like I said, I bet you the Grandifier will capture. The Grandifier would actually capture better than the Obsidian does because of the complexity of the low end, and I feel like the Grandifier in a single snapshot is more focused. So again, the questions are coming here. It will run captures in stereo as well. Awesome feature, like especially in a live environment with in-ear monitors. Like, that's super cool. You can run these out. Like, this is not like, I am not at all pooping on this device. I think it's really good. Is it the best thing out there right now? That's a different kind of debate. Dalton says some amps will capture and really poorly in my experience, and this is the truth. And I think this is your mileage is going to vary based on what style of amp you're trying to capture. I mean, I think it's pretty easy to capture a PV50-150. I think the more complex the tones are, and if an amp has something super characteristic about it, like the bottom end in my Obsidian, like, that is really hard for it to translate. It's not like something else. And now let's kind of go back to the other things. So there's a lot of people that are asking, put a good one through a power amp and a cab. If you haven't tried this already, put it through a 2-power amp. I may do that tonight for sure. I may run this through the power section of the Grandifier, which is 6L6 or something, and just to get a different feel for it. And like this thing, like, again, I started out the video talking about this is a 1.0 product, and that's what we're really at. Like, I am not crapping on this. I am just saying this is a super early product, and it gets a lot of hype. And I think if you want something that's fun and constantly being updated, and like, you're going to get a new pedal or something, or a new amp model every 6 weeks for a while, like, that's cool to get something new in this. Like, it's not fully baked yet. And so where else we're going to, like, other comments around, it makes a difference in feel from a tube amp perspective. And I totally believe that. But I have been really interested in just like, what does this thing do on its own, and if this is the only tool I had. I think if this is the only tool I had, I would be pretty happy with it. If I could not A/B this patch next to the real thing, right next to it, again, go back to question number 1. Does it sound good? The answer is yes, it does. It sounds very good. And then Chad's also saying, it sounds fine with an amp model, solid state amp, and a count. Doesn't sound exactly identical to the actual thing. Exactly. Does it sound good? Yeah, you're going to be able to get a good tone out of this. Can you get a lot of different tones out of this because it is a modeler? Yes, absolutely. That's absolutely where we're at, and I love it. Can you have it? No, you cannot. It has already been sold, technically. And it has been sold to this. Greg has done this with his Helix, no IR, through a tube power amp, and it's not bad. Obviously, it's not an exact match, but it sounds sick. Excited to see how this one sounds. And this is nail on the head right here. Like, can you get a good tone out of this through an amp and a cabin? Can you use this live and get good sound? Absolutely. And then we got the man Frank Falbo, who is interested in one of these as well, because he's got some friends in the business who are using this, and he says, does it have something similar to a Kemper refine function? It does not. So when you go through the capture process, it just does it, and you hit save, and that's it. It assumes it has run the algorithm, and it doesn't even ask you to play guitar at any point in the capture process. Now, once you do have a capture, you do have the ability to go in and make some adjustments to it from a EQ perspective. So if you didn't think it got the gain right, or if you want a little more bass response out of it, you can tweak it here. But it does not have functions like in the Kemper where you can go and address the sag or change what's occurring with how it actually picked up the amp model. So no, it doesn't have that functionality. I don't know if it needs it or not. And again, my experience with the captures are playing captures of things that I already have, which Dalton, who sent this to me, sent me some captures, and his capture sounded great. Now, let's say, for example, I've got a capture of a Dan Gower modded Marshall. That's not an amp I own. That's not an amp I've played. If I were to download that and play it, and I would think, hey, this sounds great. But I don't know how close that sounds to the real thing. And that's kind of the thing, is I'm actually able to compare this amp to the real thing behind me. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And like the effects, we've got an early product here. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. Again, like you said, they're releasing here. And Frank said, I just found it critical on the Kemper to play that type of riff to exemplify where the capture failed. I don't know enough about the software itself to know what happens when the Kemper, if I'm going to, play chug riffs on a Mesa Boogie, and then I'm going to play chords and ambient stuff on a matchless. I don't know what's happening in that refine process to have a really valid opinion on that. And I'll be the first person. If I don't know something, I'm not going to pretend like I do. So we got this saved. I'm trying to think of where we want to go. Like what else we could actually check out this. Greg kind of asked about the pitch shifting capabilities. Let me shift some of these around and let's just see. Because I'm assuming if I pitch shifted something, I'd literally want that to be the first thing in my signal chain. I wouldn't want to pitch shift it later. So what have I got? I got a pitch shift right here. And I want to pitch shift this. Let's go into the options here. And I want to go down. You want to go down a full octave? I'm in drop D. We could also just take it down. Okay, let's give it something that's easy. minus 2 semitones. I think that means 2 half steps, and that would take this from drop D to drop C. And sorry, let me switch over here to what I'm doing on the screen. Lily's got something before I jump in on this other stuff. I just hopped on here. Forgive me if I missed a spot. And so just curious, how long have you owned this unit? I have owned this unit literally for 48 hours. So I'm very well versed with the Neural DSP plugins, but I've had this thing for 48 hours. So, I mean, that speaks to how easy this thing is to get up and use. But I've literally only had this 48 hours or so. So this is just something I picked it up to give it a run. But yeah, I've only had it for about 48 hours. Brandon saying the whammy is spot on. So again, I could hook this up to an expression pedal, I believe, and I could whammy the crap out of some of this stuff. So again, what I think I have done here with 2 semitones down is dropped the guitar a full step. All right, so I've got the... So again, I'll take it down to another semitone. I think as I've jiggled this a little bit, I've kind of lost focus on the little camera here. I don't really think you care about the buttons too much here, so we'll just kind of... I'll use the word zoom in. And Lily's saying the pitch shift is freaking killer. I played drop B for a set and it sounded brilliant. So yeah, that's kind of what I just did. I just dropped this 3 semitones, and I've got my drop D guitar in drop B at this point, which is super helpful. I mean, I think I saw, I don't remember if it was Landmarks or somebody else recently that were playing a bunch of Fender Strats with Digitech Drop Tech pedals, which I thought was super sick. All right, let's just see how this drop B guitar sounds. Yeah, I mean, I'm into that. I think that's kind of cool. I think that works pretty well. I'm kind of into that. I think that's a good, on par with everybody else. Again, I've got my chorus effect. Is that my fuzz? No, that should be my fuzz. Where's my wet? So this is my like straight up ambient tone with chorus. Rex is saying he thinks that sounds really good. I don't know if he was referring to the drop tune B stuff or the wet patch. I mean, to me, I think this ambient tone is really solid. Like it's not like an A+. Like this isn't exactly what I want. But again, I have like the Strymon. The sound of the Strymon pedals have a unique thing, and that's like my jam. I thought the Kemper did a pretty decent job of getting close. The XFX did a really good job at getting close to those cloud style reverbs that I'm just a big fan of. But again, like this is super easy to use. Having the control to get in here, just pull up a preset here, or not a preset, to pull up like a chorus pedal and just play with it around. You've got tactile knobs for everything to play with. I think that's great. So I'm gonna go ahead and just roll back here. I'm gonna hit save because I feel like I've made changes to this rig as we've went. Now again, the other thing that I wish they would fix is, so I say, hey, I want to go into my presets, and so let's just say I've made changes to this preset, so I highlight it and I want to say copy it to the cloud. If I want to make updates to it, I can't re-update it. It's going to tell me that, hey, something with that name already exists, and I need to go into the cloud, delete it, and add it back in. So that's, to me, like that I can't write and update my own sounds is kind of a big bummer, like hassle. The process for importing impulse responses is super weird. Like this is proper weird. So let me see if I can pull this up and give you an example. So on my screen right now, which is what you should be seeing, this is what you do in order to, like, you go to Neural and you go into your user profile and then you go to the IR library, and then from here you upload your IRs, and then you can go into your device and pull them up. Like, this is a super weird process. Like, I would think I could just, again, I have this thing plugged in via USB, that I could just USB add that kind of stuff in, and apparently I can't. So I've got, again, a bunch of IR slots here. I don't know how many per page or whatever. 256 is the maximum amount of IRs you can load onto your device. You can upload like 1,000 to the cloud, and then you sync those down to various things. So I've almost filled up my IR slots here just in a couple of days. And again, this is a super, like, to me this navigation is super weird. But again, I've got my presets, and then I've got my captures, and so my captures, mine shipped to me with some captures from the previous owner. But I've got my two captures down here at the bottom, and then some I've downloaded from like Rabia that I thought was pretty great. But yeah, like, in order, like, let's just see done here, and then we're gonna go back the other way, and we're just gonna check out some of the, like, I don't want to call them factory. I don't necessarily want to show this off, but, like, again, here's an example of a capture that I did not do. Super simple, capture of a boost, a different drive, a simple noise gate, and then the cab block. I've got a 2x12 recto cab on this right now, and we can take a peek at what this sounds like. Sorry, I need to write that audio correct, either to multiple outputs. There we go. Now, to me, does that sound like an Uber? Yes, it does. Does it sound exactly like the green Rev 1 Uber that this is based on? I don't know. I don't own that amp. I would really like to find out if Dalton is still tuned in. Wants to let me borrow one of his temporarily rent-to-own scenario. Who knows? I'd be super curious. But again, the device is like, it's a one. I've said this 10 times on the stream so far. It's a 1.0 product. It's good. Like, it really is. But it's going to get better. And if you're the kind of person who really wants to spend the time, program this device, have a travel and a portable way to take your amps you have at home that you might not want to take out on the road. Do you own something that you just don't want to carry? And do you play? Rex plays a ton of church gigs, and he takes his Rev G20 out, and sounds great. Would this be a great thing to pair with the G20? Man, that might be like the greatest tone in the world. Would be a D20 or a G20 paired up with this. I am going to spend some time. I mean, like I said, I've already decided to sell this off, and just kind of move on to, like, again, I feel like I can get these sounds even through a power amp or whatever else if I wanted to, using a high-end computer and the current plug-in sets. I feel like I can get to most of these tones. Now, again, do I have an Uber? Do I have a slow? Or, well, again, there is a slow plug-in, whatever. I'm going to take the money after I sell this back, and I'm going to go buy a couple more of the plugins that I don't own. I'm going to buy the Henson, and I'm probably going to buy the slow, I think, and maybe the Gojira. But again, you can buy these in piecemeal or whatnot and get to some of these tones. So, again, what questions before I sign out and go figure out what I'm going to do for dinner? I'm going to see if Rev is still doing their stream. I have been doing this one. I actually only planned on streaming for about 30 minutes, but I've had a good audience the whole time who's asked some really good questions. I hope I have come across and conveyed that I think this device is great, and that just for me personally, I don't think I just don't think this works for my workflow. So Brandon's saying the slow in the QC is an old school one, and the plug-in is a modern slow. Like, that doesn't surprise me. I honestly don't know enough about amps and such on whether or not, like, what the differences really are in those circuits. Like, that's just not something I'm quite as well versed in. And so I hate to, like, make assumptions. And again, I don't like to talk about things that I may or may not know. But it is good to know that they're different versions that are in the different platforms for sure. But again, I think the unit's really good. I don't think in its 1.0 state that it's better sounding than the Fractal. Like, I had an Axe-Fx recently. I thought it sounded good. The effects, especially the reverbs and the delays, are head and shoulders better in the Axe-Fx stuff. Again, you are getting new releases all the time. Are they going to make updates to those algorithms? Like, what I don't... this is, again, the things that I do and don't understand. I think the reverbs and delays that are in the plugins are pretty damn good. And I think, like, the reverb in the Plenty Sim is better than what's in this hardware unit. Like, which it boggles my mind, because you would think dedicated resources, it's going to have more power than it needs in all the resources in order to run that reverb. And honestly, I like the one that's in the plugin better. So I think that's all I've got for now. I mean, if you have questions, leave me a comment below. This device is going off to live at a different home. And Brandon is saying the plugins are super processor intensive. Don't doubt that. I have a monster iMac, so that's the processor intensive. Like, that's not a problem for me personally. And that's why, again, if you're gonna spend $2,000, buy a high-end MacBook. Which, again, if you're gonna buy it new, is obviously more than $2,000. But hey, you've got options. And again, it's good. It's cool. Is it better than anything else that's out there? Is it the number one thing to do? Again, I think if what you really care about is capturing your amps, I think the capture feature is the best that's out there. Everything else that goes around it still super new. Wi-Fi on it's kind of flaky, but you're gonna get updates all the time. Is it gonna get better? I think so. I hope so. So, all right, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Thank you for tuning in. I hope everybody's doing well. And thanks for tuning in the stream. And I'm going to do this again probably next week. I don't know what I'll talk about next week. But, all right, everybody. Have a great evening. I will see you very, very soon.